Assassin's Creed Unity has had the biggest change of opinion from the fans of probably any Assassin's Creed game. The game had so much hype before its release in 2014. It was the first Assassin's Creed game of a new generation. The graphics looked incredible, the gameplay looked amazing, and the story looked fantastic. So like most games that are overhyped do, Assassin's Creed Unity was a major letdown. It wasn't necessarily because the game was bad, it was because it was just plain out unfinished. Looking back now, I don't see why they need to get Unity out in such a rush. Assassin's Creed Rogue basically came out at the exact same time, so you would think with the state Unity was in, they could have delayed its release or perhaps even waited a year, fix all the bugs, and release it in 2015. If that had happened, I'm sure the initial opinion of the game would have been much more positive. And if that happened, then who knows what the series would look like today, since the hate on Unity was one of the main reasons Ubisoft decided to take the series in another direction with Origins. But I think as we all know, Unity feels like a much different game today. Now granted, there's still a decent amount of bugs, definitely more than I feel your typical Assassin's Creed game would have, especially in the co-op, but it's playable and tolerable now. Assassin's Creed Unity has one of the weirdest fan bases of the entire series. It's hard to find someone who doesn't have a strong opinion on Unity. It's either someone who played the game at launch, hated it, or there's the almost cult-like following who gave the game a second chance maybe a few years after and ended up loving the game, aka me. And I think every year more and more people are either trying Unity for the first time or giving it a second chance, and the general opinion of Unity becomes significantly more positive the older it gets. Because in my opinion at least, under all those initial bugs and filth is a really fantastic game. The world design and atmosphere is phenomenal, arguably the best of the whole series. The gameplay looks and feels great. The art style and graphics for Unity still make it one of the best looking Assassin's Creed games even to this day. The animations and parkour is a lot of fun, and even the story, while many will admit is not the best, still had some flickers of greatness in it. How about Arno's character development? And how about getting to see the hierarchy of the Creed and how they function and assign missions to their assassins? That is something we've never seen before in an Assassin's Creed game, and it was awesome. While the story may not be the greatest, it certainly had the potential, and in my opinion at least, is still pretty solid. But the story isn't what most people talk about when it comes to what they love about Unity. It's usually the gameplay, world design, and the clean looking animations. This game is so controversial because once those bugs were cleaned up, the game made a complete 180, and with all that filth removed, underneath was actually a really great game that many people still continue to overlook. Unity has really gathered a passionate fan base that will defend this game, me included, as I'm kind of doing right now. And to me, Unity almost feels like a traditional AC game, but with those modern graphics. And by traditional Assassin's Creed game, I mean it doesn't have pirates or Vikings, it doesn't have to be based on some popular faction. The game is about an assassin who serves the Creed and who exercises the three tenets. While games like Black Flag and Origins may be great as well, it isn't what I would consider a traditionally styled Assassin's Creed game, and those games are very light on the AC lore and influence when compared to the likes of Assassin's Creed Unity. Let's also not forget that Assassin's Creed Unity is the only AC game to have co-op. Sure, there's been multiplayer modes before, but never a co-op feature where you can roam in the open world and complete co-op missions and heists with your friends. That's a huge deal, and the mode is a lot of fun. The only issue with it being it has a lot of bugs, which if that was ever cleaned up or built upon, perhaps in another game, would have made the mode extremely popular. This game just has so much going for it. It still remains my favorite AC game to return to and just free roam in, with that incredible world design for parkour and the immersive atmosphere with all the roaming NPCs and that extremely satisfying and good looking stealth system. I haven't even mentioned the Dead Kings DLC, which is arguably one of the best Assassin's Creed DLCs that expands upon Arno's story years after the events of Unity's main story. We get to see how he's grown and matured, and we get a dark and gritty new world to explore and assassinate some people in, along with new weapons and gameplay mechanics. Not to mention the DLC is completely free since Ubisoft felt bad for releasing the game unfinished, but I still doubt we'd get free DLC today if you just look at the $25 DLCs for Valhalla. Assassin's Creed Unity is the biggest what-if story of the series. What if it released finished and polished? What if it had a positive response at its launch? The series, as we know, could have looked completely different. But even with all the negativity this game had, it still managed to change many people's minds years later, and it developed possibly the most passionate and defensive fan base of the Assassin's Creed games. I love Assassin's Creed Unity, and I'm proud to admit it. And I urge people who may have have initially written off the game all those years ago to give it another chance. The game is still obviously not going to be for everybody, but I think it continues to win over the hearts of the community more and more the older it gets. It's also still one of the most talked about games of the series, despite it being over 7 years old now, and many people point to Unity as the game Ubisoft should have continued to build upon. Regardless though, Unity is certainly a turning point for this series, for better or worse, and still remains the most controversial game. If any of you still play Unity to this day, let me know in the comments, because I know I do, and also feel free to let me know how your opinion of Unity may have changed over the years. I'm really curious. If you guys enjoyed this video, I make a lot of Assassin's Creed and Unity related content here on the channel, so consider checking out some of my previous videos and subscribing to the channel for more in the future. Other than that, thanks for watching and have a great rest of your day, Assassins.